We saw what Trey Palmer did at the NFL Combine. That was impressive. He notched one of the best 40 times of anyone and showed his athleticism headed toward the next level. Is there anybody on this roster who's going to replace that? And if not, are you comfortable with a collection of players possibly replacing the kind of production that he showed? Obviously, that Purdue game was ridiculous, and then unfortunately he gets hurt, and we saw what the offense couldn't do without him completely healthy, and more so without Casey Thompson in that connection.
Nebraska wasn't very deep at receiver last year. They had Marcus Washington, who was a good number 2, but he had some drops and he had some issues that clearly showed. And that's the reason that Trey was targeted so often. Behind those two, we didn't see much from Alante Brown or anybody else down the list. So because Trey was, I would say, far and away the best receiver on the team, he got a ton of targets. This year, I think it's a lot more balanced. Alante Brown is probably going to be back. There's question marks around that, but let's say Alante's back. IGC is now coming back after he had one breakout game, and I'm very bullish on IGC. I think he's a stud receiver. I think he should have gotten more touches last year after that breakout game against Northwestern, and I think he's going to be in a position this year to come in as one of the leading receivers. You have Billy Kemp. So you've got 4 guys who have experience, who I would say are all similar skill set wise. None of them have the breakaway speed like Trey Palmer did, but because of that, I think we're going to see them all used in different ways, and the ball's going to be distributed pretty evenly. The one position is tight end. You have Thomas Fidone and Gilbert now. Those are 2 freakishly good athletes. I think they were like back-to-back top tight ends in the class, right, in their recruiting class. We haven't seen either of them really do much. We've seen Gilbert as a freshman at LSU, but we haven't gotten to see Thomas Fidone yet. But both of them are going to be in a position to break out this year. And if that's the case, could one of those 2 emerge as one of the leading receivers? I think I'd probably have to assume that would happen as a top 2 at least.
Yeah, if you don't have the type of production, physical ability, or numbers at the wide receiver position, but you've got 2 weapons, potential weapons like that, all we have to do is go to a number of places around college football and the NFL and see where guys like Kyle Pitts basically become wide receivers in the way that they are used and can be threats downfield. And shoot, Eric Gilbert, Thomas Fidone look like they could possibly do some damage downfield.
Yeah, both of them have those capabilities, and they both don't have any miles on them, right? They haven't played very much. So because of that, they're ready to roll. I want to say, I'm going to repeat this all throughout the offseason. Isaiah Garcia Castaneda is a wide receiver 1. He's going to win a job. He's going to be one of those top 3 guys out there on the field. And I know a lot of people made comments about drop balls and fumbles and things like that. He played in essentially 2 games. And before he got to Nebraska, he was an absolute stud. He's fast. He's physical. He's built to be a wide receiver 1, and I think he's going to break out. So that's a name I really think people need to watch for.
Well, it is interesting that you bring him up because I found it curious, and not being anywhere near as close to the information in the program and following it day to day like you do, but he did really show himself in the Northwestern game, but had a fumble late in the game, if I recall, and then he just vanished. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't necessarily a fumble. That's right. That was a touch and go play that might have cost them the game as it came down to it.
My takeaway after all that happened was there was a weird relationship with Mickey Joseph, because if he would have had the right relationship with Mickey, I think he would have gotten more opportunities and more touches. I didn't see Alante do much more than IGC did all season. So why was Alante getting prioritized? And that's not to take anything away from Alante. I just felt like we should have seen more opportunities for him. And because he wasn't getting those opportunities, he wanted to step away. And as a person who's, trying to be successful, and a person who understands you have a limited time opportunity for some of those moments, IGC had to step away because he knew last year wasn't his time and he wanted to preserve his eligibility. So it made sense that he stepped away, and I'm really glad they got him back.